You know what's more frustrating than a flying monkey? An enabler. At least with flying monkeys, you know where you stand. They're obvious. They parrot the high control individual's words. They try to manipulate you, similar to how a narcissist works, maybe even guilt trip you into staying in a toxic dynamic. But enablers, they're trickier. They show up cloaked in support, but the impact of their words is just as harmful, sometimes even worse. And here's the thing, most enablers don't even know they're doing it. They think they're being neutral, compassionate, fair. But what they're actually doing is making excuses for the abuser. And in doing so, leaving you out in the cold. An enabler is someone who, intentionally or not, makes excuses for a high control individual. They don't usually take direct action like flying monkeys do. Instead, they dismiss, deflect, or both sides the conversation, making you question yourself. And let's be clear, just because their intention isn't to hurt you, it doesn't mean that their impact isn't harmful. Here's an example. You open up about how emotionally draining your relationship was. And they say, well, hurt people hurt people. Maybe they just don't know any better. Okay, but what about you? What about the harm you experienced? Where's the compassion for you from this person who says they're your friend? And you finally get to this place where you're done explaining yourself to the person who harmed you. You've set a boundary. You're clear. And then someone close to you says, but have you tried sitting down and having a real conversation with them? Maybe they just don't realize what they're doing. If you've been in one of these relationships, you already know. You've had the conversations. You've explained. You've tried ad nauseum. The issue isn't that they don't understand. It's that they don't care to change. And yet, an enabler will make you feel like it's still your job to try harder. Here's why enablers can be even more damaging than flying monkeys. They confuse you by making their invalidation sound like compassion. They trigger self-doubt, making you second-guess your feelings. They reinforce the idea that you should understand the abuser instead of protecting yourself. They discourage boundaries. That's a big one. They make you feel like you're the problem for setting them. Flying monkeys come at you more aggressively. Enablers, they make you think you're the one being too harsh. And when you're still healing, still untangling the web of manipulation, that little seed of doubt they plant can take root fast. This happens constantly, and once you start noticing it, you can't unsee it. It's in usual conversations, in friend groups, in family dynamics. People will defend an abuser without even realizing that's what they're doing. I remember a time when I was confiding in someone about my experience with a high control individual. I was raw, I was vulnerable, I was sharing what I had been through. And instead of meeting me in that moment, they shifted the conversation to the struggles of the person who had harmed me or people like them. I felt it in my body, that instant ick feeling. That moment of realizing, wait a second, I'm sharing something painful, something real, and instead of acknowledging that, the conversation has become more about them, about their struggle, their hardship. And suddenly I felt completely unseen, completely unsupported. And here's the thing, I get it. I actually do feel for people who haven't been given the tools that they need for emotional growth and for connection. I feel for them. But that doesn't mean it's my job or anyone's job to put our healing on hold to make space for their pain while they continue harming us. And this is what enablers do. They shift the lens back on the abuser, making you feel like you're supposed to hold more compassion, more space, more patience. And honestly, I'm done with that. I'm all for introspection, but not serving the abuser. If someone is unwilling to grow, to take accountability, or even listen to another perspective, they're not someone that you can reason with, period. Here's how to recognize and to handle these enablers. First, pay attention to how their words make you feel. Do you leave the conversation feeling unseen, unheard, or doubting yourself when you were just sharing? That's a red flag. Number 2, watch for both sides language. If someone keeps saying things like, well, there are 2 sides to every story, be careful. True in healthy relationships, not in abusive ones. That's often a way of minimizing harm. 3, limit your exposure to enablers. You don't have to cut them off completely, but you do need to protect your energy. If someone consistently makes you feel worse, they don't belong in that inner circle, at least not while you're healing. Number 4, trust yourself. Your experience is valid. The fact that others don't see the abuse the way you do doesn't mean it's not real. You're not here to save, to heal, or to understand the abuser more than you protect yourself. If you're navigating this, I see you. I know how confusing and exhausting it can be when even well-meaning people in your life don't seem to get it. But here's what I want you to take away from this. Your healing comes first. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting yourself. You don't have to justify your boundaries to people who weren't there when the harm was happening. So tell me, have you experienced this? What's the most frustrating thing an enabler has ever said to you? Drop it in the comments, because I guarantee you're not alone in this. And if this has resonated, don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to share this with someone who needs to hear it. The more we talk about this and get it in the open, the more we can unlearn the patterns that keep us stuck. Let's keep this conversation going.